Welcome, creatives, community, and kind folks, to RPG with DBJ. Today, we are going to take a look at Stars Without Number, and we are also continuing our delve into randomization, random tables, and elements that help us during prep and maybe even at the table build our setting. So, today, we're going to take a look at. Yesterday, we did Kevin Crawford's Cities Without Number. Today, we're going to take a look at Stars Without Number. And of course, the big one tomorrow is going to be Worlds Without Number. But this one is our science fiction sandbox. This is our science fiction foundation, and we're going to take a look at this. Also, if you're interested in D20 systems, but you don't really want to delve into the big name that has created the and owns the Dungeons and Dragons brand, but you still like to support other creators that use a similar system, this is the one for you. But first, let's get past the intro and get into Stars Without Number. Stay tuned, please. All right, we jumped across the universe, and now, hey, Destiny Shadow, hello, hello, hello. Yeah, this is the physical book, Stars Without Number. It is the revised edition. Down below in the doobly is a link to it's on Drive Through RPG, is the free version of this book. Now, I do not have the free version because I did order the physical copy, the Dead Tree version, with the PDF. So I'm not sure exactly what the free version is, but oh, thanks, Shadow. It's a little hack of the across the universe Spider-Man across the whatever. Anyway, you get it. I didn't make it up. I found it and then created my own. But we're going to take a look at the PDF of this version. And just because I know it gets a little bit annoying trying to flip through the pages, and my camera is not cooperative very often. Stars Without Number, Kevin Crawford made a big splash when he released Worlds Without Number and continued it with Stars and Cities Without Number by basically giving away his game for free. And when creators do that, they are like value added to the community. So you guys are funny. And because of that, I wanted to support a creator that does such a thing. And what I love about the Worlds, Stars, and Cities Without Number system, and apparently there's also going to be Ashes Without Number, is that Kevin Crawford has gone out of his way to ensure that there is enough of a best practices in the book so that you can create what you want for your players and your setting and your system. So it's not really a not as what's the version? Oh, my brain just farted. Anyway, lots of tables. We're going to get into it. Yeah, Shadow says, I love the Dead Tree versions. Beats the we can change it at any time without your consent stuff, like some evil coastal wizards. Yeah, change it without your consent at any time. Yeah, you're just unfortunately, when you have digital versions, and yes, PDFs can be updated, but once you print a book, you're pretty set. They can't come and take it from you, right? Well, they could hire the Pinkertons to come do it, I suppose. Sorry, but for the most part, if you buy a book, they can't change it. It's yours. You get to do with it whatever you want. Where as opposed to a subscription service, essentially, in which they can go in and change things willy-nilly. And we've seen this. There's some controversy when it comes to like Magic the Gathering and the Wizards of the Coast digital subscription service and things like that. But we're going to go into Stars Without Number, and try to get to, let's see if we can get to this page first. So Stars Without Number does have a meta narrative. And what I mean by that is, if you want to play this game and you have no idea what kind of setting, you have no idea the type of setting you'd like to create, but you want to adventure in one, it does have a meta setting. And it's basically, essentially, humanity has spread amongst the stars, met other alien races. There was an age of glory, and then a traumatic thing happens and it scattered there were stargates and things like that, and then there was a collapse, and now the players are living in a world with the collapse. And essentially, different star sectors have been cut off or haven't been visited in a while, and the players can be freebooters and travel around to different systems, and allows there to be a bit of a mystery involved in finding places around this galaxy, spiral arm or whatever have you, in order to, come on, what's happening? Come on, there we go. There we go. That's what I wanted to get to. Star sectors. Okay, so this is a D20 system. It does have mechanically, it does have a level system in it. The level system isn't quite similar to Dungeons and Dragons. Instead, level is basically a gate to get your character to acquire different capabilities. So if you are, like, for example, you might have I'm just going to make this up off the top of my head. You may have a martial skill or a gun skill, and you can't raise it, say, above a +3 until you're level 5. And then you can start raising it above those point levels. So level in this game is really just a gate to get you past certain bonuses, or allow you to have more than one capability. They also use a system similar to, what is the game? Man, 6 o'clock in the morning is a little difficult for me. Sorry about that. Shadowrun. Woo! Shadowrun and Cyberpunk games have like a humanity level or maybe an essence level. Essentially, it's a numerical value that measures how much like cyberware or psionics or magic or whatever that you can have. And this game has something similar, and really it's a backfilling feature, so players don't get out of control, because they're going to want to have access to, if in your setting you want to include psionics, you want to include cyberware, you want to include implants and genetic modification and whatnot. And let's see if we can find this on the character sheet, and then I'll show a digital version of the same said thing. It's very difficult to see this on the camera, so I'll show the digital version. But there's something known as system strain, and your max system strain is your con score. And whenever you acquire some of these like psychic talents or digital aspects or something like that, and it's a little box right here called system strain, and your maximum system strain is basically your constitution. And when you, let's say you take 2 psychic powers and they each cost 3 points, then that subtracts from your system strain, so that if you just also decide to have like a cybernetic arm, or during the adventure you are injected with some kind of biological or nanotech or something of that nature, you can have no more than your system strain. And that's just a way yeah, that's just a way to get to it, to keep a hard limit on how much players can have. So if a player wants to be the psychic of the group, they can be, and will remain the psychic of the group. If another player is also like, I want to have like biological implants, and I want nanotech, and I also want psionics, it's like, well, you got a hard limit. So I like that. Yeah, I'm with you there, Shadows. Seriously though, I think watermark PDFs are a good option. Yep. Castles and Crusades, I guess you were saying, has been doing this for with their previews. Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So do those affect your humanity? Yes. In this game, they call it system strain, but system strain, humanity, um, like I said, essence from other role playing games. What? Okay. Mm-mm-mm. um, there is a way to quote unquote lose your humanity, but for because this is a sandbox style game, it doesn't really go into like, oh, if you have too much of this, you'll go insane or something like that. No, 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 no. It's basically like, hey guys, listen, you're going to need a hard cap on some of these things, so relax. So, sorry. Let me see if I can. Do I want to do a two-pager? Yeah, you can't really see it because the font is too bad. No, 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 no. We'll go back to a single pager. This is the sector creations part of the game. Science fiction, we all know that when it comes to science fiction, our players are going to want to drop grenades, drop nukes, and escape to other places. Plus, we love to when it comes to science fiction, have plenty of brand new places for them to go. Evil races having their own star sectors and things like that. And what I'm paging through here digitally are the different methods and best practices that Kevin Crawford's come up with to create your own sectors in terms of like the planets and the worlds and the factions, which we're going to get into the faction part of this. And there is actual faction gameplay so that your sandbox keeps changing with your different governments and criminal organizations and things like that. So first of all, we do have his classic world tags, EFCTP. Find out what it means to me. EFCTP, whatever. That's so stupid. He has these things called enemies. There we go. Enemies, friends, complications, things, and places, and those world tags. And basically, you can just refer to them so that it reminds you of what this place is like when using this particular theme. And with the tags, there's no random rolls, there's nothing like that. Essentially, I suppose you could print them off and cut and paste them or something into your document just to remind you about what this type of world is like, just so that you can keep it in mind. And here is a D100 table of tags, and I got to get my dice out. Got to do it. You can't have a random table and not have some dice. So we're gonna roll some dice. Rolled a 98, and we are down to Xenophiles. Now this is alphabetical. There's no particular one that should be above another one. Again, remember I was saying before that random tables are basically just bullet points. You can pick and choose them as you want, mix and match them, roll them for prep and things like that. Like looking at this table right in the middle, number 35 is heavy industry. Maybe there is an outpost world. I wish this wouldn't always keep coming up. Number 56 is an outpost world. Let's see, 18 is cyclical doom. I don't know. Number 5 is anthropomorphs. Number 82 is secret masters, etc., etc. And again, these are prompts. These are things to get that mind fuel going, especially. And then we have ourselves a number of pages of each of them. So let's start out with the abandoned colony because it's right here up front. Or no, you know what? We'll go to alien ruins simply because I can get all of this on the page right here. So alien ruins to the right says the world has significant alien ruins present. The locals may or may not permit others to investigate the ruins and may make it difficult to remove any objects of value without substantial payment. Any surviving ruins with worthwhile salvage must certainly have some defense or hazard to explain their unplundered state. And again, this is just an overview. And then we have the EFCTP. So we have enemies, which could be customs inspectors, worshippers of the ruins, or hidden alien survivors. For friends, we have a curious scholar, or maybe a avaricious local resident, or an interstellar smuggler. For complications, we have traps in the ruins, remote location, or paranoid customs officials. For um, things, we have precious alien artifacts or objects left with the remains of a prior unsuccessful expedition, untranslated alien texts or untouched alien ruins, and lastly, places: an undersea ruin, orbital ruin, perfectly preserved alien building, or alien mausoleum. And again, we have 100 of these to go through: altered humanity, anarchists, and it goes on and on and on with these tags. Area 51, battlegrounds, a Badlands world, um, Civil War, cheap life. And mind you, none of these need to be permanent. Remember, you're creating a sandbox. A a place could be going through Civil War. Maybe they weren't even going through Civil War until the players visited the place and decided to come back through a Stargate or something. Or society has changed and now life is cheap in a place. But anyway, there's 100 of these. Excuse me. A doomed world, desert worlds, of course. Um, they do talk about the the mono ecologies of like Star Wars. It doesn't mention Star Wars specifically, but does talk about mono ecologies on planets. And excuse me, and it's a little bit ridiculous, but it does make sense for storytelling purposes, maybe not so much with scientific purposes. And they say, yeah, you don't need to have monoculture and mono ecologies on planets, but it just makes it a whole lot simpler, right? And mind you, a planet could be mostly desert, but it could have frigid poles, and maybe one region of the place might have oceans or something like that. So heavy mining and industry, hatreds, holy wars, hive minds, etc., etc., etc. So we'll go past all this. Having 100 of these, when it comes to uh, science fiction settings, allows us that if we want to do a super intergalactic place, that you can have your own little side region that's like, we've always known in science fiction that there's like the inner worlds that are all the super urban, very cosmopolitan, um, heavy industry and whatnot. And you might stick with that. And then at a certain point, you may go, you know what? I want to do more of a wilder, um, more prehistoric, untouched, wild region, and I want to use a different star sector. And then, so that you don't have to use all 100 of these, you can just pick up, a half dozen to a dozen that are um, you're pretty happy with, and stick with those. And then later on, maybe other players may want to like play in your sandbox and go, hey, I want to be the game master. And they can pick their own star sector, and then you can use those. Like, for example, here, I love like post scarcity and that kind of stuff, right? So we even have post scarcity. What's that about? And then it just gives you some things to think about. For example, like the locals have mandated sufficient mandate era tech to be effectively post scarcity in their economic structure. Everyone has all the necessities and most of the desires they can imagine. Conflict now exists over the appointment of services in terrestrial space, since anything else can be had in abundance. So for enemies, we have frenzied ideologue fighting over an idea. Paranoid local, fearing off-world influence. Maybe there's a grim reformer seeking the destruction of the enfeebling productive tech. And then we got friends like off-worlders seeking something available only here, or local struggling to maintain the production tech, or a native missionary seeking to bring abundance to other worlds. And it goes on and on, right? We got ourselves some complications, like the tech causes serious side effects on those who take advantage of it, or the tech is breaking down, or the population is growing too large, or maybe the tech produces only certain things in abundance. Um, a twist could be a cornucopia device, or a rare commodity that cannot be duplicated, or a contract for services. And then there's places like tiny but richly appointed private quarters, or a market for services, or hushed, non-duped art salon. Kind of weird, but anyway, let us get to our random tables. And like I said, these are there are 100 of these, and here we have, as we got to the end of our tags for our star sectors, we get into planet building. And there's like a 2d6 tables here for different aspects of creating your own planets, but it goes through a lot of the common tropes that we know in science fiction, a few real world science kind of things, but you got to play in the world, right? And we have a little bit of those. Let me get to your comments here because it always disappears. He's so funny. Sandboxes are just for cats called litter boxes. I was about to make my wife and I were about to put a giant sandbox in our backyard. We decided against it. Yeah, drop grenades. So they get sucked out and drink vacuum. Gotta get that vac. Gotta get the vac. Yeah. What players are what? Never. I love that. I love songs from was it Five Finger Death Punch? They've got some out there. Five Finger Death Punch, a concert song. Wow. Yeah. You guys are funny. All right. So here we have. Oops. Wrong thing. Here we have atmospheres. Everything from, if you roll 2d6, you can get the worst one, which is corrosive. If you roll a 12, you get both corrosive and invasive in its effects. So yeah, and of course, there's from 5 to 9. It's the most common. It's got a breathable mix because you want your players maybe to go to these places without having to worry about vac suits. But if you want them to have sealed suits or whatever, there's things like airless or thin gas or inert gases, or maybe it's breathable but you need a pressure mask, or it's invasive where it penetrates seal suits. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the dust on Mars is so fine that it can enter into sealed compartments and suits and stuff, or is at least predicted to. And then we've got temperature, everything from frozen, cold, variable, temperate, variable, warm, and burning. And of course, between variable cold and variable warm, in the middle, I mean, that's from 4 to 10. It's going to be pretty more likely than not. Players are going to be able to go to these worlds with maybe a thermal suit, but that's about it when it comes to temperature. But then there's other places that are completely burning and hot, and that could just be like a one-off. This is probably the free version because there's no art in here, and there's art in my book. So I must be using the free version. So okay. Then there's the biosphere, and we have ourselves our biosphere. Like, what kind of life was here? Microbial or engineered? That kind of thing. No life at all. And talks about the details of those and some best practices. And then we have ourselves a population. on the world, meaning in population other than natural life on the world. What's the population like on these planets? And again, it might surprise you. Everything from, if you roll a 2 on 2d6, you got to have a failed colony or an outpost, all the way to billions of inhabitants or alien inhabitants and things like that. Now, of course, if we're playing humans, may think a planet has aliens, but I, what I really think it means is that the planet you're going to is inhabited by something otherworldly on this planet. So it's alien to the planet. So humans visiting are aliens. We would consider ourselves the aliens to visit an alien world. But let's say there's a intelligent intelligent insectoid beings that live on this planet, but they might be invaded by, I don't know, avians, let's say, or something, that they're picking them off one by one because they taste so good. Um, and it talks about populations and population growth. I was about to go into that. And then here we have tech level. It does explain the tech levels from 0 to 5 and above, and 0 being Neolithic, tech level 1 being medieval-ish, tech level 2 being early industrial age, steam, coal, industrial factories. Tech level 4 is like modern post-tech. Tech level 3 is like that of present day Earth. 4 plus is post tech with specialties, and tech level 5 is pre tech with surviving infrastructures. 4 is like what we would consider like cyberpunk all the way up into like Star Wars. And then 5 and above is like Star Trek and above, where it's indistinguishable from magic, basically. You basically usable by the player characters, but let try to. I can't quote this, but basically, tech level 5 is the highest tech level that might merit random placement. A world with this level of technological expertise has somehow managed to hold on to the majority of pre-Scream technology. The Scream is the horrific event that happened across the galaxy. But anyway, and then there's additional system points of interest, and of course we have ourselves some random tables like origin of the world, current relationship, and contact points, and things like that. Like what are these D8s? So here we go. I rolled a 1. Recent colony from a primary world. Number 3, old grudges or resentments for the current relationship. And then 5, contact point, shared research. And you can mix and match these to add some story elements, like what is the galaxy's relationship to this world? What about maybe the players have a specific relationship to this world, independent of what the galaxy or the local government or something like that has. And then we have other things like other points of interest. And I love compound tables because you can get so many different iterations on it. So, for example, here, if you roll a d8, number 1 is a deep space station, and then you have a d10 occupied by, and then there's some choices here, and then another d10 with this situation. So we have a deep space station, and let's get our d10s out here. Rolled a 5, and that is a deep space station that's a secretive military observers, and I think that was a 5, and a 9, supply base for pirates. So, just off the top of my head, a deep space station could be, are they secretive military and they are observers? Or is it a secretive place observing military people? But it could be a military outpost that is making money on the side by making a supply base for pirates, and the players could be investigating it. It could be a secretive organization in this deep space thing, spying on military people, on a military, maybe in a on a moon or a planet, and they are also, maybe they are being threatened to be a supply base for pirates. They don't want to help the pirates out, but the pirates could blow them out of space, and so they're like, hey, this is a protection racket. It could be that, I mean, there's so many other things. Maybe the military has splintered, and essentially the military is operating like privateers now, so on and so forth. And you can get a lot of story ideas about this. So, yep, gas mines or fueling stations and things like that. Yeah, I think this is the free version. And then we have ourselves adventure creation. Let's see if I can get to the next page here. Points of interest. Yep. 180. That was one. Let's see. Rewards and creating problems. There's a whole adventure section. Here it is, creating problems. So I am off by 4. All right, let's get back into what you guys have to say. As my chat disappears. I did say avians. Yeah. Shinobi says the free version also has art, but it does offer a version without art that is better for printing. I believe that's the one I grabbed one and put it up, and I don't want to change it. But yeah, I must have the one that's easier for printing. What they eventually, call like low res. So I think that's what I'm doing. Otherworldly microbes that don't do shit. Oh man. Space wizards and laser swords. It does have rules in the back. Worlds Without Number is the fantasy version of Kevin Crawford's Without Number series, and it does talk about mixing and matching the two, basically making space wizards and having space magic if you want to. And yes, they are the same system, so yes, you could incorporate that. You could even have a world that has space magic, and then how do you incorporate that into your mostly science fiction setting? Mostly science fiction. Yep. So anyway, creating problems is the section on adventure. So Kevin Crawford goes through best practices for creating adventures and things like that. And sometimes we can get, we don't have many creative prompts. And again, random tables, something to mix it up. Maybe you weren't thinking about, I don't know, elements of both sides seek accommodation, maybe. And then maybe there's a twist, a diplomatic twist. The PCs could really profit off the focus of the strife, right? And when you come up with these kind of complications, because we're going to get into the factions and how there's actually a faction turn, like you have like combat turns and exploration, and there's also faction turns as well. And this is just a section on creating problems. Creating problems for diplomacy and intrigue and things like that. For example, conflict type. Of course, you have conflict over money, revenge, power, natural dangers, things like that, and a whole lot of tables to, religion, ideology, ethnicity, resources, and then here we have creating people. You gotta have some cultures and such, right? So, damn it. So the title up here is called Creating People, and what's their culture like? What are their issues? What are their motivations? What's important to them? What's threatening them? And we have ourselves a bunch of prompts for that. So you have like your initial manner, default deal outcomes if you're dealing with them. Maybe they are wide-eyed and all at the PCs because they come from the inner cosmopolitan world, and they're all different, special snowflakes. Maybe they're smoothly persuasive and reasonable. Or maybe they are visibly uncomfortable. Come on. Maybe they are visibly uncomfortable with the PCs. Um, I like this. A slimy used grab car dealer's approach. Don't I have a deal for you? We'll be throwing some undercoating for your for your starship, as if there's an underside to a starship. Oh man. And then there's things like default deal outcome, like they'll be reasonably punctual about the deal, or they firmly intend to actively betray the PCs, you know, or they'll offer a bonus for an additional favor, right? And those are like wheeling and dealings, things like that. No, I don't want to put a comment there. Here's some motivations. Motivation, their wants. You always have to have some wants. Their power and their hook, and they've got choices for that. And then there's creating places. You got people, you got to have some places, and there's like rewards for that you can find in these places. Civilized ongoings like tourists or missionaries or road work halting traffic or police chasing criminals. There's also wilderness ongoings. You know, a toxic plant is growing wild. A vehicle crash nearby. Refugees are hiding out in the wilderness, or bandits have moved in. And then there are some specific examples. And then, of course, some of these examples, what kind of hazard is there? Specific examples and possible dangers to the players. So, for example, we got number one, the social hazard. Anything from like an explosively temperamental VIP, an unknown but crucial social taboo, or a case of mistaken identity. And then there's possible dangers, such as an enemy is alerted to them, a new enemy is made, cats think the PCs are allies, or an opportunity is lost for certain social dangers. And environmental, there's traps, animals, sentience, decay. And then we have ourselves a D100 list of adventure seeds. So let's get ourselves some adventure seeding going on here. 65. Page past all this. And you got to have some adventure seeds, random or not. Pick and choose them. I mean, if you have 100 choices, that's basically 100 adventures you can fill out. But we'll go with 65. Vital medical supplies against an impending plague have been shipped in from off-world, but the spike drive craft that was due to deliver them misjumped and has arrived in system as a lifeless wreck, transmitting a blind distress signal. Whoever gets there first can hold the whole planet hostage, and an enemy means to do just that. And that's a great hook, right? Because what a great story hook does is it opens ourselves to questions we need to answer. So first we have a plague on a world. So what is that plague like? What are the effects of it? Is it possible that there are people trying to leave the planet? They may have the plague. Are the players specifically sent to help administer the medicine, or sell the medicine, or give it away for free? And then there's an enemy that probably wants to take advantage of the medical supplies to offset the plague and cure it, but they could hold the planet hostage. And then why would an enemy want to hold the planet hostage in the first place? What materials do they have, or power do they have, or influence, or technology, or alien artifacts, or whatever? Like, what do they have to want to hold them hostage in the first place? And what kind of rivalry is there, or enemies, or something like that? And then why, when the ship misjumped, is it lifeless? Now, when they say lifeless, does that mean the whole crew is gone, or are they dead, and what caused it? So you have a lot of questions in there, and that's a pretty good story hook. I don't think we need to go through too many of them, but Maybe we might pick another one. Here we go. Let's pick this number 72. A trained psychic is accused of going feral by an enemy. The psychic had already suffered severe neural damage before being found for training, so brain scans cannot establish physical signs of madness. The psychic seems unstable but not violent, at least on short acquaintance. The psychic offers a psychic PC the secrets of a unique psychic technique if they help him flee. And this could be a little bit more personal, although maybe the psychic has broken um a taboo, like a legal taboo, maybe reaching to people's minds or something. Maybe there's something on the planet that is that causes psychics to go, there's some kind of psychic madness happening to make them lose control of their powers. Is this a political plot to get rid of psychics in the first place? And someone is doing this, making psychics lose control to set the galaxy against psychics in the first place, to say, hey, we told you they were dangerous, um, whatnot. Yeah, maybe the psychic found out a crime, and finding out that crime has been driving them a little bit mad, and they want to flee from this draconian place. Or maybe the psychic really is dangerous, and the PCs are like, well, we were friends with this person, but you know the local law is like, no, you need to understand, this person is like, I don't know, the Dark Phoenix with the X-Men, right? Like, I understand you're trying to protect this person, but this person is very dangerous to the rest of us, and you got to figure out how to stop them, or we will. So, yep. And then there's example, adventure creation, and whatnot. But we're going to go past all that. We're getting pretty late into the, let's see, name generation. We got to have aliens. Yeah, we got to have aliens. 20 plus 4 is 206. We got to go to aliens. So, got to have some exotic aliens. What are they like? What's their culture like? Things like that. And alien biology. And then, because we can make hybrids. They only have a D6 table here. Avian, reptilian, insectile, mammalian, exotic, or a hybrid of 2 or more types. Right? And exotic is like composed of some novel substance. Exotic could be like crystalline, plant-like, I don't know, nanotech or whatever. Insectile is like beetle-like, spider-ish, wasp-like, something like that. Reptilian, we've seen reptilians and amphibians many times. Draconic. And then avian, bat-like, pterodactylian. I think I pronounced it. I think I put the correct emphasis on the correct syllable. Alien physiology and some traits like curiosity, despair, domination. Like what's their lens that they look at the world through? I love Larry Niven's Ring World because theirs was the puppeteers. Their whole society was made up of fear, basically. Yeah, it was made up of fear. That's the puppeteers would not leave their home world until they could create a starship with a shell that could not be penetrated. Yeah, very funny, but cool. Fear, honor, journeying, joy, gluttony, greed, pacifism, hate, pride, sagacity. What is sagacity? I've never heard the word before. Sagacity. Sagacity? Sagacity? Anyway, these aliens love intellectual pursuits above all others. Logic, wisdom, and erudition, here we go, are all prized as the best and most glorious expressions of their nature, and their rulers are invariably sage kings of remarkable depth and breadth of understanding. Such understanding does not necessarily stand in well for good judgment, and sagacious alien civilizations are notorious for overreaching in their ambitions. Stupidity and ignorance are moral failings to this race, and some of them treat very harshly those species that they do not feel to be their intellectual peers. Never heard of that. And I know erudition. Okay. Huh. Learn something new every day. I love it. Treachery, tribalism, wrath, alien structures. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see what you guys have to say. Going into the chats. Excuse me. Drew says, I am usually invisibly uncomfortable. Well, don't be. Please don't. Was watching the live news from Orlando, reminiscent about my days back in Florida and hurricanes. Yeah. I was gonna bring something like that up. Maybe not. Let's let a little bit of time pass. But I here, we around the world, people across the pond, and here in the United States, we like to talk about, how our similarities and differences, and the United States is always besieged by some kind of very pretty traumatic weather events, and this hurricane just happens to be one of them. Category 3 and 2, swept across the Florida peninsula. So yeah. I just didn't want to make it. I didn't want to make it a news item about other people's traumatic events and things, but it is something that we are a tabletop role playing channel over here. So being influenced by media, whether it's real or artistic or something like that, is the thing that really fuels us. So social structures: democratic, monarchic, tribal, oligarchic, multipolar, cooperative, multipolar. Is that the exactly same? Multipolar, competitive, multipolar, cooperative. Let's see. Competitive. This multipolar. The species has more than one leadership organization. Roll a d6. On a 1 or 2, it has 2. On a 3 or 4, it has 3. On a 5 or 6, indicates 4 different leaderships. Roll on this table the requisite number of times to determine the nature of these organizations. Some such multipolar institutions operate in parallel. A tribal organization headed by one gender, for example, that determines the division of goods, while a monarchic head of a different gender makes decisions about the race's relations with other species. Others are directly in conflict, such as monarchy struggling against a democratic neighbor. I think he could have gone more wild with the governmental types, but whatever, teach their own. To be honest with you, we could narrow down like the hundreds of different governmental types, but maybe that's what he's done. Alien sectors where they live, alien player characters, aptitudes, making up your own alien races and things. Factions, here we go. Using factions in a game. Factions, of course, will have here we go, factions, assets, and faction turns. And players could belong to factions, or what you could do is be above board and let the players roll for different factions they are aligned with, or when the players are away, the factions will play, and by doing it above board in front of the players, that is a way of letting the players know that certain factions are rising and losing in power, expanding and contracting, and maybe their assets are expanding or they're losing their assets, so that when the players return, it's the equivalent of like gaining like gossip, word on the street kind of thing. And maybe let's say the players are part of a black market, they're freebooters and they're black market pirates kind of, and maybe there's an empire growing that's trying to curtail the criminality, but that draconian empire has laws that are very restrictive, and they are growing a military, and the players may be like, ooh, we're going to have to really be careful about patrolling in sector 24 when we used to be able to just run wild in sector 24. It talks about like hit points of the faction, basically, force ratings, tags, assets, the turns, things like that, and what kind of turns they can take, whether it's like buying an asset or attacking. Here it is, like different actions they can take: change homeworld, expand influence, um, refit an asset, repair an asset that they have, sell an asset, seize a planet, and handling special cases. And of course, um, there's bases of operation. There's certain goals that they might want to have, like military conquest. There was something I just missed. Uh, Invincible valor, wealth of worlds, or goals they may have. And then there's different assets: lobbyists, informers, blackmail, base of influence, party machines, covert shipping. Kind of cool. And players can operate their own faction. So players could play characters that are basically weaker members of a powerful faction, and then the players could play that faction. In a way, faction play is kind of like Dune, like the Houses of Dune, and you could play it that way. And it does give like the HP. I wish there was a different term for it, but okay, whatever, right? The hit points, the cost, the tech level of those assets, the type of asset they would have, like starships or logistics or military units, things like that. For their attack, it's like, what can they use or will they use for their attacks, and what are some kind of counters to that? And then there's notes for those kind of things as well. Like, oh, sorry. Gotta have yourself some cyber ninjas, right? Gotta have yourself some cyber ninjas for an asset. What do they have? 4 hit points. They cost 6 credits or asset points or whatever it is. They are tech level 4. They are special forces, and they use cunning versus cunning and do 2d6 damage to other assets to take out that asset. And there's force assets, different things, what kind of assets there are, and then wealth assets, and a list of those, and then faction tags. And faction tags basically are like, what is the faction like, and then what effect does that tag have on that faction? And a faction could change tags based on their level. So, for example, they could start out as colonists, this first tag here, and later on in gameplay, they could move up to planetary government, which is another tag. Right? So, for example, let's go with imperialists. This faction nurses wild dreams of controlling the sector, whether out of an impulse to bring their local culture and technology to less fortunate worlds, or simple lust for domination. They excel at defeating planetary defenses and standing armies. And the effect of this is this faction may roll an extra D10 for attacks made as part of a seized planet action. Machiavellian, deep-rooted, things like that. So it's basically like you could play a faction round, like seasonally. Like, okay, well, this is I'm just going to call this the season of spring. Mind you, we know that seasons are planetary things, but you get my point. And then start to shift and change who has power in the world, including the player characters. And the players may be on adventures to ensure that their faction survives. And then using factions in the game, and then we're going to get out of here. One last thing. We got to do societies. Did we do that? Transhumanism? We don't need to do transhumanism. We'll do societies and get out of here. 294. All right. Lastly, to me, factions in Stars Without Number are similar to gangs in Blades in the Dark. Right? You can make a faction as big or small as you like. Shinobi says Cat 4 and 5. Yeah, category 4 or 5 hurricanes. Shadow says, I lived there for 40 years. Been been through many hurricanes. I didn't expect them to try to follow me up to Tennessee, but Helen had a different idea. Yeah, yeah. I'm in Ohio Valley. We usually get the remnants of like hurricanes. We get cold from Canada, we get warm from the south, and we get wind from hurricanes from Tornado Alley, basically the southeast of us, and we get some tropical depression rain, uh, rarely, but sometimes from the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. So we're kind of like in the interim, like right in the middle. Wow, you guys talked about it. Yep, yep, yep. Fortunately, it dropped to Cat 3 as it approached the peninsula and down to 1 as it was crossing the state, extremely near where I lived most of my life before I moved up here. Wow. It did drop massive amounts of rain near St. Pete. Broke the October monthly record for rain in one day. Yeah. Tropicana Field, Rays Stadium roof got shredded. I didn't know that. Yeah. Whew. Horrible. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right. We'll go through societies, and I mean, this is this a am I like doing like a you should get this, sure, especially if it's free. But also if you have your own science fiction setting, like a sandbox setting, this is great for that. Um One roll origins. We got to get ourselves some one roll origins, right? And come on, dice, fall on it. Basically take a here it is. You take a D4 all the way through a D20, get your classic 6 dice, and you roll on these. These are one pagers, one roll origins, and he's got a number of these one roll pagers that I really like to get the brain going. So these are origins, like how old is the society, how important local resources are. So let's see, for founded within the past century, important local resource or benefit. I rolled a 2. Nexus of interstellar spike drill routes. Cultures in this area, D6. Several founding groups before this one. So on and so forth. So, society's rulers. One role rulers. Who rules here, and what are details about them? How completely do they rule? Basic form of rule. General security of their rule. What else do they have? Main source of legitimacy, main conflict with rule populace, whatnot. And that, I mean, that just that table alone, main conflict amongst the ruling class. And the ruling class is okay, well, one role ruled, you know, exactly like how to, what is the ruling class like? Like how uniform is the ruled class? How content are the ruled? Main conflict inside the ruled class. Their last major threat to the rulers. Trends among the ruled. What power do they have? How about flavoring the society? Oops. Basic cultural flavor. And this is how you can mix in. Here's a D12 list right here, and you can mix in a lot of world cultures, which I really appreciate. Everything from Western European, specific or general, to Japanese, unified or balkanized. Maybe you have Eastern European, Mesoamericans, such as like Aztec, Mayan, Inca. Maybe you might have Southeast Asian or Polynesian or Middle Eastern or pre or post Islamic, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can mix and match those so that you can kind of give like a flavor to it. So it's not always like silver lame suits, Americanized silver lame suits, whatever. And here's society. Society's degree of xenophobia, possible patrons, treatment of allowed outsiders, societal customs and quirks, primary societal virtue, primary societal vice, etc. And then we get into mechs, mechanized creatures, and I mean mechanized suits and whatnot. But anyway, Stars Without Number, thank you very much for letting me go over this. I'm going to page back up to the cover of this thing, and I'm going to let you guys go. Um, Oh, wow. National Weather Service trains Skywarn spotter. I did not know that. Oh, but it goes along with, yeah. Remember that whole ham radio thing kind of goes along with that in my volunteer stuff. Sweet. That's awesome. So, um, again, Stars Without Number. This book, the physical book, is, I don't know, how many pages is this damn thing? 300, little over 300, 311 plus untitled pages as well. Come on. There's my camera acting up. Um, I'm getting yappy, as Miss Death would say. You're fine. Um, yeah. Sandbox creator, Stars Without Number, pretty good to have. Free version, yes, there is one. If you need prompts for creating an intergalactic society, this is the book. This is the game for you. If you're also into, if you're also comfortable with a D20 system, D20 style system, this is for you as well. Let me show you what a character sheet is before I get out of here. Sorry, because a lot of times it's funny how we will use character creation for um, we'll use character creation for how the game is to be played, and it's kind of fun. Here we go. Am I in here? I can't remember whether I backed it or not. Nope. Nope. Here we go. Come on, character. There it is. Move. All right, let's see if we can turn this the right way and shrink this down. So this is the character sheet, and it looks a little busy. I will admit it's not as busy as one would think, simply because it's got the hexagonal and slash sided borders to it, but it also gives you the numbers and nomenclature to fill the character sheet out. So I suppose if you erased a bunch of that stuff, this would be a lot better. But if you're like me and you kind of have to squint a little bit at the character sheet, it's like, so so to the left, we've got like the personal things: name, background, class, level, and experience points. Experience points are very low. So, for example, to get the experience point level 8, you need 54 points. Just to get the level 2, you need 3 experience points. So the experience point distribution is very low. Like each adventure you may get from like 1 to 3 points, maybe 5 if it's really intense, and that's about it, right? There's to the left, of course, we have home world, employer, and species, and I'm sure there are going to be some notations under species to fill out with the other thing. To the very right, we have our classic stats: strength, dex, con, and int, wiz, and charisma. And it talks about the modifiers, like if you have anything from 3 to 18. Across the top here, it shows you what the bonuses are for the modifiers. I hate the fact that we use 3 to 18 and then have to translate that into a bonus and never refer to the 3 to 18 anymore. But at the bottom, it does talk about different types of boosts and levels and things like that, and where your point levels are gated behind which level you are. Here is system strain. Oh, it won't let me just highlight that one by itself. System strain, and then right in the middle are the skills, and then you can just put points in those skills. They are not specifically related to a specific attribute, so you could have like, you can use Constitution plus performance to put on a performance that's supposed to last for 3 days to impress a diplomat, right? Like you can mix and match these. You can put Dex plus, how about charisma plus I don't know, what's something cool? Charisma plus fix to talk to scientists about and scientific engineers, and to convince your way to get into an inner sanctum that's protected, right? But you have to know what you're talking about, so you're going to use your fixed skill, but you're like, well, my charisma is pretty high. I'm going to sweet talk them because I talk their same language, right? Or it could be the opposite. You could do like intelligence and then talk skill, right? Like, I'm brilliant and I'm going to talk their language as well. So yeah, it's basically the same thing. Skills, just like other D20, basic D&D. And then in the bottom part of this character sheet, everything from like modifiers, armor, foci for like psychic abilities, and then there's psychic things, notes you can write down on the right, and then above that are cybernetics, and then at the very bottom, like psionics, and then psychic effects, things like that. Blah 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 blah. You get the point. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining me and letting me show off Stars Without Number. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much. Yeah, Traveler. I don't have Traveler. I've played it before. How does it compare with other systems, say Traveler? Do you know what pages the world creation stuff is on? Shinobi. So world creation in the book is on its name generators, factions, aliens. I would start with there we go. I would start on page 170. Maybe let's go before that. Let's go with sector creation and then go from there. So I would start on page 128 in the book. So I'd start let's see, Stars Without Number, page 128, world creation, and then go from there. And then pick and choose what you'd like, right? So I'd start from there, because when you start on page 128, you get to that's sector creation. So it's like it starts big and then zooms in. So you get sector creation, world tags, then you get into points of interest, aliens, tech level, blah blah blah. Does that have the tag stuff as well? Oh hell yeah! There's 100 of them. Hundreds of them. Where did the tag start? Is it 132? So the tag started page 132. Let's go. There it is. Here's the world tags, and it goes on. 100 of them, as a matter of fact. And if you're talking about the world tags with the enemies, friends, complications, things, and places, it's where it starts. So here is the chart of 100 different tags, and then it goes on to explain every one of them, from 132 to moving the book 132 on out to page 159. Yep. So hells yeah. No problem. You're very welcome. So guys, have a great day. I really appreciate you guys being here and allowing me to show this off. Tomorrow we're going to do Worlds Without Number, and then we're going to get away from the randomization thing. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like prompts. I like things that help the mind, to kickstart the mind. So Stars Without Number, guys, check it out if you haven't. They do have a free rule set, and if you like it, support the creator. I've got all the details below. Go to tell Kevin Crawford you would really appreciate it. So guys, thank you very much. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility.